Hey everybody, Ronarray here, and today I'm going to showcase my early game tier list for last Epoch Classes and Masteries. So right now I just want to focus on the stuff that we already tested while preparing for 1.0 launch. We pretty much tested all the classes in the early game to like level 50 or 70, and I want to share my thoughts on how well those classes are performing. Let's go! So first class that I want to rank will be the Sorcerer. I played a lot of Sorcerers right now, and for now Sorcerer is one of the classes I had the most experience with. I totally like it, and placing it, I would say the A would be kinda basic, but honestly, based on my experience, I even want to move it to S tier. Because right now, Sorcerer is completely amazing. You have a lot of AoEs, you can clear the screens, doing all of that on the move. And teleport skill is really cool for moving fast between the different fights and just slamming through the campaign. It worked so good for me. There could be some issues with mana, but those are pretty easy to fix, especially in the second part. And if you just roll your items right, if you pick the stuff from the ground and craft on that a little, those issues will be really easy to fix. So right now I think the Sorcerer is a proper S tier build, because it can do everything really fast and without any kind of issue. So the second class I played a lot and I want to comment on is the Lich. The Lich is pretty much completely amazing right now as well, especially because there's not a lot of mana issues. So generally I wanted to put it in the S tier, but since you will need to stop just a little to kill the monsters, and your movement spell is not that good compared to other alternatives, at least in my experience, I think it will feel better in A, because Lich is very versatile, but you will still have some boundaries in some cases, especially if you are going with not really a lot of projectiles version, and going with the crit version could be a little harder, especially while you are leveling. So right now I think the A tier works pretty good for Lich, and it's mostly like an endgame class in my opinion. So going next, the class that I really want to talk about is Necromancer. I think Necromancer is completely amazing because, wow, minions can just carry you through the whole campaign. Right now I will place Necromancer at the same level as Lich, just because I think it works so good. Minions will kill everything for you. It still has some issues with movement itself, and you will need to wait a little just for minions to kind of engage the enemy, because they could be a little slow and maybe not that smart. That's the main issue why it's go to A and not to S. Otherwise, it's completely insane, and I think it works really good. So the next class I really played a lot with is pretty much a Bladedancer. I did a few cool builds with it, and right now I think Bladedancer is a proper S tier. It's amazingly fast because Shift has like really low cooldown. You can just move from pack to pack. It can also clear with great AoE, and every kind of cast and skill will pretty much destroy enemies around you. It's also dealing a lot of damage to bosses, and I think in the current form Bladedancer is one of the best classes for leveling, so it's a proper S tier without any kind of question. Another class that I want to comment on, and I really like as a concept, will be a Beastmaster. Right now, I think Beastmaster going for the B tier, I mean, yeah, the pun intended. So why, you will ask me? You know, I really think the Beastmaster will be completely amazing in the endgame. But while leveling, it's much harder for Beastmaster to come online. It's not moving that fast, the pets are not that cool as Necromancers, and I think compared, the Beastmaster just lacking a little speed by itself, so it falls a little behind. I think B tier will be perfect place for it in the early game and while leveling. So another class that pretty much based on Primalist is the Shaman. And the Shaman, in my opinion, is a proper S tier. You have a crazy amount of really cool skills that can literally clear the screen for you. You can do it fast, you can move much faster, and you don't need anything to come online. You also don't really need to wait for minions or anything like that. You can pretty much destroy everything around without any issue. Also, in my opinion, Shaman in the early game is doing crazy damage to bosses. So I really liked it, and I think Shaman pretty much should be in an S tier. So talking about the next class, I think it should be Druid. The Druid itself is really something in between Shaman and Beastmaster, because it's not really needed a lot of stuff to come online, and considering that you have amazing swarm form which will just clear the screen creating a lot of little swarms here and there, I think Druid could be really good right now. But considering it's not that fast as Shaman and the single target damage is not that high, I think A tier should be pretty good for Druid. So it just stacks better and comes online faster than the Beastmaster, but still not as great as Shaman. So the next class is going to be Marksman for Rogue. Currently, Marksman in a pretty special position. You can clear a lot of screens with Marksman, but it still needs a few different bonuses to work properly. Both multi-shot and the version of Rain of Arrows works pretty good, but right now it just requires a little more setup. So while you're running through campaign and preparing for like early leveling and early game phase by itself, I think Marksman, it should be somewhere in between. I think A tier will work great for it because it can still be pretty strong and it has shift the same way as Bladedancer has it, so it will come online but later on. So the next class that I tested a lot would be Runemaster. Choosing between Sorcerer and Runemaster for myself was pretty hard, and I think Runemaster completely amazing right now. It can pretty much do everything that the Sorcerer does, and that way it can be really strong in all the cases. Both of them pretty much should be an S tier because right now Runemaster can provide a lot of AoEs, crazy damage against the bosses, and really fast moving due to the teleport. So the next class I want to give comments on will be a Paladin. I think Paladin right now is in a pretty good position because it has amazing shield rush skill with very low cooldown. It can literally go through almost all the enemies with it. And Javelin is a really good skill to do damage. Add arrows on top of that and different kind of bonuses and you can easily see a proper S tier build. So I think S tier Paladin is pretty much should be the basic right now. It's the strongest half melee class in the game together with Bladedancer, and I think it has everything to just cruise through early game without any issue. So next class is pretty much my biggest issue. It's Void Knight, and with Void Knight I really like the whole gimmick of the character, and I think on higher levels it could be completely amazing. But since Void Knight mostly built around zones with damage over time, it could be much harder to utilize it when you need to constantly run through the campaign or complete things faster. So I think unfortunately right now Void Knight should be in the C tier. It's probably the lowest one for it, and I think it's just not an early game class. But it's still pretty cool and it will be really strong in the end game on the other hand. So another class that I really like and I want to showcase should be a Forge Knight. So right now Forge Knight is in a pretty strong position in the later part of the early game. Right now it's pretty hard to start as a Forge Knight. You will need at least like 30 passives, like to 40 passives to make it come online properly, to do like great damage and for build to work. And I think it makes the early game much harder. It's not that bad as with the Void Knight, but I think it still has a lot of issues. So right now I would place it to B because it's somewhere in between the Paladin, which is completely amazing, and the Void Knight, which not really working for leveling like at all. So the next class that I want to comment on will be a Spellblade. I think Spellblade is a really good magical archetype and it could be pretty strong too, but right now it has some issues. Mostly because when you play the Spellblade you need to hit enemies with your melee attacks. And while leveling it's pretty annoying. And that way it still has a lot of potential. The damage is high and you have access to teleport, but hitting with melee it could be a big issue. So right now I think it should go to A tier. It just works that way better, and if not for melee, it will be S. The two classes left is pretty much Falconer and the Warlock. I haven't played any of them, and I just checked the three, so please take my opinion with a grain of salt, because, it's really hard to rank stuff when you can't see proper gameplay and you can play them by yourself. So right now, I would say, in my opinion, Falconer seems like an S tier. Because based on everything that I've seen, it can still utilize shift, it can be pretty fast, and the Falconer abilities are pretty nice as well. And the Warlock, I really like the Warlock, but I think in early game it goes to the A tier instead and not the S. Because I think it just feels a little slower, and you will need to stack more debuffs on the enemies, so it will take time. It's harder than just like running past enemies and just one-shotting them while doing that. Maybe I'm wrong about those twos, but right now I feel like A for Warlock and S for Falconer just works. So that's pretty much the tier list that I came up with. Right now I think that tier list should work just fine. So please tell me in the comments if I'm wrong about any of it. I hope you will be able to choose the class that you like and enjoy. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more RPG content, and see you next time.